Hi, everyone. How are you? It's Kelly, Futurist Female, here for you with this course. And I wanted to just be your cheerleader today. And the purpose of this Facebook Live is to really dive into Module 2 of the Truthteller course, how to boldly claim your story. So I'm going to wait a few minutes, see if anyone comes on. If not, we'll get going because I'm recording these for everyone to see, and someone is on. It's probably my admin right now. But these are really important sessions because I'm going to talk a little bit more about what it is inside the course, what we all need to be doing. And this module is, as I was speaking with Nirmala Nataraj, my co-creator today, who cannot be on the call today, we were talking about how this module is the most key module to really dive into. We created this course, and at first it was 6 weeks, but we decided to make it evergreen, which you could take your time in doing each module. So with that said, we will be sending out, hi Abby, we will be sending out a schedule for when the module Facebook Lives will be coming out. They won't be concurrent. They won't be every single week because we want to give you some time and space in between these modules to really dive in and create questions. And hi Diane, how are you? Nice to see you here. And so we will be sending those out. We will be posting in the Facebook group. We have several people that are in this course that aren't on Facebook. So we're recording these sessions and then we're sending it to them on email. And if you would like to be sent these videos as well, like Diane, if you would like to be sent them, feel free, go for it, because I think they're really valuable. And this one is a big one. This module is huge. This is the way I call it, like, what are you going to get out of this module? And I want to dive in. It really is kind of a springboard into diving into your truth, is what I would call it. Because module 2 is about limiting versus expansive stories. And I know, Diane, you have actually written into Nirmala, and Nirmala has spoken to you about that. And I want to dive into that. Pardon the pun. I want to dive into limiting versus expansive stories. I want to talk about the heart brain a bit. I want to talk about your genius and how it leads to your brilliance a little bit, and record this and send it to the group that actually isn't coming live and on this Facebook group. And we will also post this obviously in the Facebook group so everyone from the past and the future can really learn from this. And if you have any questions at all, feel free. Diane, look, we got the Futurist Female. Feel free to email me. I've gotten several questions from many of you on email that I've written back to. So you can email me at info@womenforone.com or kelly@womenforone.com. I'm happy to jump on the phone with you as well if you're having some challenges, because this course is definitely our big one. It is our gritty go-to course. We have other courses where people join because they're not really sure that they want to dive in as deep. So if you've chosen to do this course, you are diving in the deep end. And that's what Module 2 does. It takes you into the deep end quickly. And if you remember as a child when you learned how to swim, I don't know how you learned how to swim, but first time I dove into the deep end, I was terrified. And that is really where we go here, is we ask you to look and define what your limiting stories versus your expansive stories are, and really understand that a little bit more. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about that, and I'm also going to do a Q&A at the end if anybody has any questions. And then what I will do on this Facebook Live is, once it's complete, if people have questions, feel free to post them. If you weren't listening to this live, email me or post them and tag me, or we'll see them on the group and we'll answer them. So let's dive in. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to just type them in the chat box and I will definitely answer them. So Let's talk about limiting belief systems, and let's talk about judgment, because, you know, my whole life I've felt like I've had a lot. I was born into limiting belief systems, and I think a lot of us are, whether we're raised by parents or families that haven't gone as far as we want to go. And I'm not just talking about careers. I'm talking about how we want to go to develop our personalities, how we want to go and be mature, how we want to dive into deep joy and passion. You know, life is hard, and it's challenging to really stay in that space where we can move forward, and we want to move forward purposefully instead of having life take us over. And that's where that motto came, make life happen instead of having life happen to you. Because for so many years, my life, I allowed it to happen to me. And then I decided to take the reins of my life. And that's where this course came from, is really going into the nitty-gritty of my life and looking at the stories, the limiting stories that I bought into, the limiting belief systems that I bought into that shaped my life, and that I allowed to, that I made the choice for them to shape my life. So the first thing I want to talk about is judgment. And you know, I know we talked about that in the soul digs in this group a lot. If you've had a chance to dive into some of the questions in the soul digs about, you know, like for home play 1, where I asked you to look at those stories and notice where the judgments came up. Because Nirmal and I selected stories that, you know, you could have some judgment on. You could be like, why would they do that? Or, you know, what kind of person would choose to do that? Well, you know what? We all make mistakes and we all screw up. And if you're judging others, that means you're judging yourself. And a lot of times I'm preaching to the choir with this group, because a lot of people that sign up for this group know that. But moving it forward, really looking at your daily judgments and getting an awareness of the judgments you have on every single person. Like, for example, I went in today to get my hair cut, and there was a woman there, and she was rude, very rude to me. And my initial instinct was like, I'm the customer, she's, you know, the cashier. I'm just asking questions. Why does she have to be rude? But moving into the space of, if she's in judgment and I'm in judgment, there's no conversation, there's no connection, there's no understanding. And so really seeing that we all have this inherent judgment that we have come from our past, and we need to really address it and have an awareness of it. And more importantly, get curious about why we have it. That's the big one, the curiosity. And that's why I say, get my book, Your Messy Brilliance. I'm not trying to sell you my book. I just want you to know that in my book, the 7 tools, and I know, Diane, you've gotten it, 7 tools for the perfectly imperfect woman, we talk about curiosity. We talk about awareness. They're so key, you know, because curiosity is so easy when we're younger. But when we get older, to get curious about why we're reacting, why we're in an emotional response, why someone triggers us, it's because of our limiting belief systems. Because if we are fully empowered and fully embodied, we're not going to sit around and feel like people are doing to us. We're going to have compassion and empathy for where they're coming from. And I think that's one of my goals here, is to really have the people that are taking this course, the courageous women that want to dive into their story, to have a distance from their story so that they can bring peace into the world and bring passion and joy into their own lives by not getting triggered by everything and really having an awareness of their belief systems. So I think starting with this negative judgment on others, it's really easy for me, actually, to judge others. Really easy. I mean, it can happen all the time. I mean, ask Abby, my director. She and I sit around because we're very similar. We're overachievers. We get a lot done, and we have a lot of judgment. And it's just our nature. It's our nature as human beings, because we have to have a barometer for the way that we want to excel in this world. But really, that judgment all is about ourselves. It's all about self-judgment. And that's where I want to take us next, is that self-judgment. Because if we can really translate our own judgment for others, whether it be around what victims they are, or if they're doing to others. I mean, I can bring up the political system these days. I mean, we can look at so many things. Then we can move into, okay, how am I judging myself. And I mean, I judge myself every day. I judge myself about my body image. I judge myself about, for years. I mean, I think this is really important for this group because there's a lot of women in this group that are all about branding themselves and really getting themselves out there in the coaching business and in the business of making their own mark in the world and helping others. I mean, that's really a lot of clients that I have right now. So, for example, for years, I had a belief system that I wasn't a good writer. That was my negative belief system. That was my self-judgment. And so I was scared. I was scared to write a course. I was terrified to write the book. I knew I had a layout of things, and I would go and do these retreats, and I get big sticky paper, and I'd write all this stuff up, and I'd organize it. But then I'd be like, well, how am I going to put it to paper? How am I going to really do this? And and then I'd hear that little voice, that little gremlin, I can't do this. There's no way. Like, let me see what she said. Yes, ma'am. Oh, hi, Michelle. Hi, Jennifer. Nice to see you guys. So what I would say about that is what I did was I started getting curious about where that I can't write, I am not enough place came from in my life. And then I moved forward and went, okay, well, I have the resources, I have the time, I can figure this out. And so I got support like Nirmala and other people that were really great writers to help me get my ideas out into the world, and I felt like I could manifest that. And I addressed those belief systems by finding my own resources, looking at where they came from, where I didn't think I was a good enough student when I was younger. I mean, there were all kinds of things. So I just wanted to give you an example of a belief system that I started with, that I addressed, got curious about, got some awareness about, and shifted into creating a best-selling book that, premiered at Barnes & Noble, New York City. I mean, it was incredible. Your Messy Brilliance. And because it resonated with me and I discovered my truth and I got very congruent about who I was and about my message, I could put it out into the world, even though I'm not the best writer. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I started Women for One because I didn't want a blog that you had to submit to and be subject to being this incredibly beautiful writer like a Liz Gilbert, right? I know Liz and she is an incredible writer, and yet we all have great ideas and experiences like Liz has had. We do, I promise you. So why can't I create a platform for women to share their stories and their experiences and connect and feel less alone, even though they're not great writers? And that's what I created with Women for One. So really addressing the stories that have happened to me in my life, the limiting beliefs and the judgments I had on myself, and pushing through those by getting an awareness and making a different choice is how I move forward. So that's the first thing I want to talk about, really, is like that whole limiting belief systems and limiting versus expansive stories. Does anybody have any questions on that? Yay, Jennifer. Hi. So I want to just address expansive stories now, because expansive stories are awesome. They rock. And we all have limiting and expansive stories. It's not like linear. It's very feminine. It's very like, my expansive story is I am a writer now. I can do this. I can found an organization that reaches thousands of women over 60 countries, right? I mean, that's my expansive story. But I go into limiting stories about lots of other things, about my mothering, right? I have 6 children, 3 of my own, 3 stepchildren. Am I good enough stepmom? That's just constant questioning on my limiting beliefs from my past stories. But I have created a system where you identify your limiting stories and you move into that expansive story. And it really is about not having judgment, truly. And so my dear friend Barnett Bain, who he is actually one of my greatest mentors. I don't know if any of you know him. Let me find this. He wrote something and I have it pulled up here. And also, look at this thing. I printed this out, but you have it on your computer as well. It's the limiting stories versus expanded stories, like the difference between both of them, which is really important to study these lists. because you really need to start identifying your own limiting versus expanding stories for sure. And keep it going. Keep making it happen. Where is Barnett? He said something here. In his book, The Third Story, Awakening the Love That Transforms, he said, no matter what you have been through, you always have the opportunity to claim and reframe your story. Really, it's about claiming that and not becoming a victim to it. And you don't need the street cred of divorce, death, abuse. That's the other thing. Nirmala told me to bring this up today. She said there's a lot of people that have the limiting belief system that says, and I've heard this for so long, I don't have a story. I don't have a good enough story. Like my story, I'm boring. There hasn't been that much trauma in my life, so I'm not worthy. That's so not true. We do not have to, I really believe, and there's a lot of people that disagree with me, but we do not have to go through trauma to have challenges in our lives and limiting beliefs and expansive beliefs. It doesn't happen. And so let go of that limiting belief right now because it's not true. So he said, after all, there are plenty of wounded people who are proud of the scars they wear, but without awareness, their experiences merely add up to more unprocessed lessons that keep them feeling small, powerless, and cycling in their victimhood. And this is from, if you've read it, this is from the course. And this book is amazing, The Third Story, Awakening the Love That Transforms. Barnett is the award-winning producer of What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. He's done all kinds of retreats and courses for women and men. He's an amazing man. So read his book because it's really about the expansive story. When I read that, I was like, that's it. We all need to dive into that expansive story for sure. Okay, so any questions? Yeah, throw them in there if you have anything. I want to talk about, so I talked about expansive stories, and I want to talk about genius in a second, but I definitely want to talk about if you've done some of the home plays, because we have 4 home plays in this second module, and they're so important to do to move forward, to be able to create the story and dive into a story that has affected your life. Because we have millions, right? We have millions and millions and millions of stories. But if we can practice what Nirmal and I have created in this course to do with these stories, it will come to you inherently. You won't even have to think about it when you do it in the future. It'll just kind of come to you. And then you can move on and free yourself, because limiting stories are they trap you. They trap you in judgment, in shame, in fear. And expansive stories allow you to move through and have this beautiful lesson and wisdom. And really, it gives you energy back, for sure. So before we move into genius, I want to talk a little bit about the heart brain. And I don't know if anybody wants to raise their hand if anybody's heard of the heart brain before. I think it's incredible. It's somewhat like your intuition, but it has to do with your brain as well. And it's really connecting yourself. If you want to revisit module 2 in the Truthteller course, for those of you that have been in this before, really stay connected to the heart brain, because it will transform you and it will allow you to access that genius inside each of us. And when I'm talking about genius, I am not talking about your passion. I am not talking about, who said something about, I think I wrote it in here somewhere. It said, you can be a genius. I'm talking about having a genius, okay? There are lots of geniuses in this world. We're not talking about the brain. This is about developing and having an awareness of what your genius is in your life, what you came to this earth to do. To serve yourself, to serve your family, to serve others. So the genius for me is so huge, and I'm hoping that you guys can really have an understanding and identify the genius inside of yourself. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to dive a little bit more into genius and then go into Q&A. Diane, do you have any questions? And I know we had spoken about having a back and forth, which we're still exploring for the next the next Facebook Live where we'd have a Zoom and then we'd post it on the Facebook Live. This did not happen this time. I just wanted to address that because I know I was looking into that for the last time. Okay, no questions right now. All right. I did talk about Liz Gilbert saying that the genius, being a genius rather than having a genius. And then coming back to our personal stories can really help us discover our genius. So I'm going to give you a couple examples. So for me, I think my genius, I mean, I have lots of them, like we all do. I mean, we all have so many inside of ourselves. But one of my geniuses is the messiness about me, right? Like my thoughts are random. I'm ADD. My brain is constantly firing a lot faster than most people. So with that said, I had to create a system to be able to communicate and articulate my passion and my thoughts and my belief systems. And from that, I created Women for One. Okay, so my genius really is moving from a family of growing up of secret keepers that encourage secret keeping to transforming and moving into my genius of creating a vehicle for women to truth tell. So I took what my personal story that happened to me and I looked at it and I worked it through many years of therapy and a lot of soul searching, and I moved it into a passion, and passion is part of it, but my genius really is connecting women, and my genius is the passion of truth telling and the raw place in me that needs to speak truth, that it's just not okay for me to not be real with others. So that is my true genius. But we all have so many geniuses inside ourselves. I have different team members. I have different children. I mean, if I look at my 6 children, every single one of them has such a unique genius inside of them. My son Jack is he's just a heart. Like his genius is his heart and his truth and his sweetness when I'm around him, and he allows everybody to feel safe. That's a genius for me. I also have a stepson named Jack, and he's a leader, and that's his genius. Everything he does, he just takes it and leads and moves with it, right? So really, we can all create these geniuses, identify them, discover them, nurture them, and move forward in our lives. And we can look at our stories and what has happened to us in our experiences and really bring them to light and manifest them in our lives so that we can move forward and have so much more passion and joy in our lives and do what we want and make life happen. Like I've talked about, make life happen on our own terms. So life's not happening to us. We are making our lives happen. That's really important to me. It's important around this course. And it's really what Women for One is about. It's about women taking the reins and deciding what they choose to do in their lives to bring them joy, passion, and purpose. So that is really all I wanted to talk about today. I talked about the heart brain. I wanted to talk about discovering your genius, expansive versus limiting stories. Really look at the checklists. Do the home plays. We called them home plays because we didn't want to call them homework, because we thought, well, you can choose to do them or not. I mean, Nirmal and I are very much about, even in our retreats, we're very much about, there's no rules retreat. We're doing a retreat at Kripalu Yoga Center in September, and we just finished a retreat in Seattle in April. So we keep continuing to do those, and we have other courses on our site. We're launching our hard conversations, which I think is really important for women to have, to teach you assertiveness and how to claim your voice and how to interact with other people assertively so that there's a win-win and not a lose-lose or a win-lose. So please check out our other courses. Call me, email me, set up a time to talk. I am here for you through this, because this course is, like I said, it's a deep dive and it will transform you. It's transformed me. It will transform you in your business, because it will get you very clear on who you are and congruent about who you are. It will transform you in your personal life, because it will identify where you want to discover joy and passion, and why you have limited yourself and why you have made the choice. Own it. Own the fact that you've made the choice to limit yourself. So all of those things, this is what this course will do. And module 2 is amazing. So I wish you all love. I wish you luck in this. And please contact me with any other questions. I'm sending you love. Thank you.